from our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Aylia Batool. Sharif Usman bin Hadi, the face of the July 2024 uprising in Bangladesh, has died. This and more on today's show, so stay tuned. Most Americans believe President Donald Trump is overusing presidential power, according to a new national poll. A Quinnipiac University survey finds that 54% of voters say Trump's use of authority goes too far. 37% say he is handling it about right. 7% say he has not gone far enough. Trump has moved quickly on tariffs against foreign trade partners. He has ordered cuts across federal agencies and approved demolishing the White House East Wing to build a new ballroom. The Quinnipiac polling analyst says more than half of Americans believe the president has crossed a line. The poll also shows weak approval on key issues. 55% disapprove of Trump's handling of trade. 54% disapprove of his immigration policy. The same share disapproves of his foreign policy. Cost of living remains a major concern, as 64% say it is a serious problem. The poll surveyed 1,035 registered voters in mid-December. The House of Representatives has passed a Republican health care bill that does not extend the Affordable Care Act or ACA subsidies that millions of Americans rely on. Lawmakers approved the Lower Health Care Premiums for All Americans Act in a narrow 216 to 211 vote. Republican Thomas Macy voted against it. The bill was introduced less than a week ago as pressure grew to act on enhanced ACA tax credits, which are set to expire December 31st. Republican leaders say the measure would lower premiums by at least 11% and save taxpayers nearly $30 billion. House Speaker Mike Johnson claims the bill focuses on reducing costs, expanding choice, and increasing transparency. Democrats argue the legislation ignores the most urgent issue. They want a 3-year extension of the ACA subsidies created during the pandemic. Earlier, House Republicans blocked a Democratic effort to force a vote on that extension, triggering a protest on the House floor. The bill now faces an uncertain future in the Senate, where Democratic support would be needed. Without action, millions of Americans could see higher insurance costs starting January 1st. The Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, and its Los Angeles chapter are strongly opposing a new expansion of the Trump administration's 2025 travel ban. It has added 7 more countries to the fully banned list, including Burkina Faso, Laos, Mali, Niger, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, and Syria. The Trump administration has also imposed full restrictions on travelers using documents issued by the Palestinian Authority. Partial restrictions now apply to nationals from more than a dozen other countries across Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific. The administration has also ended exemptions that allowed family members of U.S. citizens from targeted countries to enter the United States. CAIR says the move will separate families and unfairly target Black, African, and Muslim communities. The Muslim Civil Rights Organization says banning spouses and close relatives of U.S. citizens is unprecedented and unnecessary. CAIR has also criticized restrictions on Palestinian travelers, calling them cruel and politically motivated. The organization says existing vetting procedures already are strict. CAIR is urging Congress to pass the No Ban Act to permanently end the policy. Sharif Usman bin Hadi, the face of the July 2024 uprising in Bangladesh, has died. He emerged as a leader during the July 2024 student revolution against former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who fled to India. In a Facebook post, his party, Inqilab Moncho, announced Hadi's death. In the struggle against Indian hegemony, Allah has accepted the great revolutionary Usman Hadi as a martyr. Hadi was shot on December 12th while riding an auto rickshaw in Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka. The most prominent aspect of Hadi's appeal is his outspoken criticism of foreign influence in Bangladesh, especially from neighboring India. He argued that true democracy requires sovereignty, not only from domestic autocracy, but also from external pressure. Bangladesh's chief advisor Dr. Muhammad Yunus, addressing the nation in a live broadcast, announced Saturday as the State Mourning Day. He called Hadi an immortal soldier of the struggle against fascism and hegemony.
বিপ্লবী রক্তে উজ্জীবিত এই তরুণ নেতা ওসমান হাদি ছিলেন প্রতিবাদের অনন্য প্রতীক। তার কর্মের মধ্য দিয়ে তিনি শুধু প্রতিবাদ নয়, দেশপ্রেম, ধৈর্য ও দৃঢ়তার অনন্য দৃষ্টান্ত রেখে গেছেন। ওসমান হাদি ছিলেন পরাজিত শক্তি ফ্যাসিস্ট সন্ত্রাসীদের শত্রু। তার কণ্ঠ স্তব্ধ করে বিপ্লবীদের ভয় দেখানোর অপচেষ্টা সম্পূর্ণভাবে ব্যর্থ করে দেন। ভয়, সন্ত্রাস কিংবা রক্তপাতের মাধ্যমে এদেশের গণতান্ত্রিক অগ্রযাত্রা কেউ থামাতে পারবে না।
The police says suspects have fled to India while it has arrested their accomplices. This is the second anti-India leader who has died this week in the country. Jannat Ara Sufi, who faced many death threats from the Indian lobby, was found dead Wednesday. Bangladesh has firmly rejected India's comments on its upcoming elections. Foreign advisor Tawheed Hussain says his country does not need guidance from its neighbors on how to run polls. Speaking at the foreign ministry, Tawheed said India stayed silent for 15 years when elections in Bangladesh lacked credibility. India's Ministry of External Affairs earlier called for free, fair, inclusive, and credible elections, something it did not do during the rule of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Tawheed said it is unacceptable for New Delhi to offer advice now. Hasina was found guilty of human rights abuses during the violent suppression of student-led protests in 2024 by Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal in November. She fled to India last year after being forced to resign and is currently in exile there. Tawheed said the goal of the interim government is to create a genuine voting environment. He said this environment did not exist for the past 15 years. Tawheed added that interim authorities are already moving towards allowing people to vote freely and respect their choice. He said Bangladesh remains in contact with the European Union and others, nothing that they coordinate with the election commissions to send their observers. But he said issuing public advice is different, and that is not acceptable now. A man has been detained in San Francisco on suspicion of arson after a fire at a Jewish student center while people were inside. Police say the suspect set fire to a dumpster outside San Francisco Hillel on December 5th. Students and staff were inside the building preparing for the final Shabbat of the academic term. The fire spread from the dumpster to the building. No one was injured. Authorities say the building was significantly damaged, with Hillel officials reporting heavy smoke damage throughout the facility. Torah scrolls were not burned, but are being checked for possible smoke exposure. The organization says the San Francisco Police Department has ruled the incident an arson attack and has taken a suspect into custody. The investigation is ongoing. Hillel praised San Francisco State University's administration for strong support. Canada protests Israel's treatment of its MPs at occupied West Bank crossing. Details coming up next. Canada formally raised concerns with Israel after several Canadian members of parliament, or MPs, were denied entry to the occupied West Bank and mistreated by Israeli officials. Ottawa says the refusal to allow the delegation in and the conduct of Israeli officers towards elected representatives are unacceptable. 6 Canadian MPs were among the delegation of approximately 30 Canadians stopped at a crossing while heading to the West Bank. Members of the group say they were held for hours and subjected to aggressive behavior by Israeli authorities. Ikra Khalid, one of the MPs in the delegation, says she was yelled at and physically pushed by border officers. She was trying to ensure the safety of another delegate during questioning. Khalid says an Israeli officer shouted in her face, pushed her against a wall, and continued even after she asked not to be touched. Other members of the delegation stepped in and pulled her away before the situation escalated further. The MPs say they were shocked by what they described as hostile and intimidating treatment towards Canadian parliamentarians. Israeli authorities claim the delegation was denied entry for security reasons and for arriving without prior coordination. Members of the group reject that explanation. The visit was organized by the Canadian Muslim Vote and was intended to meet displaced Palestinians during a 3-day trip in the West Bank and Israel. Approximately 1.3 million people in Gaza need emergency shelter support as flooding from repeated storms has washed away shelters and basic belongings. The UN warns that winter storms are worsening already dire conditions for displaced families. It says the need inside Gaza are rising faster than what the Israeli government is allowing to enter. Israel has blocked or delayed key items to the region, including heavy machinery and spare parts needed to repair damaged infrastructure. The UN says limited routes, crossing delays, and prioritization of commercial cargo continue to slow aid delivery. It warns that restrictions must be lifted to prevent further suffering. The UN says heavy rains have damaged shelters for 55,000 families. Israel continues to violate the ceasefire in Gaza as attacks and humanitarian suffering persist across the region. Medical sources say Israeli strikes wounded at least 11 Palestinians in central Gaza City. In separate incidents, 2 Palestinians were injured east of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Israeli fire also wounded a teenage boy in eastern Gaza City. Gaza hospitals recorded 1 new fatality and 13 injuries in the past 24 hours, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Hospitals also confirmed the death of a 1-month-old baby from extreme cold, raising weather-related deaths to 13. Rescue teams say several victims remain trapped under rubble or stranded on roads. Ambulances and civil defense crews are yet unable to reach many areas. Since the ceasefire began on October 10th, health authorities say 395 Palestinians have been killed and more than 1,000 wounded. Hundreds of bodies have been recovered from collapsed buildings. Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman warned that repeated Israeli breaches threaten the entire ceasefire. He urged urgent progress towards the next phase of the deal after talks with U.S. officials. Israeli settlers also attempted to enter Gaza, raising further concern. Israel's genocide in Gaza has killed more than 70,600 people and wounded 171,165 others since October 2023. The U.S. military killed 4 people in a strike on a suspected narco-trafficking vessel in the eastern Pacific Ocean. U.S. Southern Command says the operation was carried out Wednesday in international waters. Officials claim the vessel was actively involved in narco-trafficking operations at the time of the strike. The mission was conducted at the direction of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and executed by Joint Task Force Southern Spear. U.S. Southern Command says the boat was operated by groups it labels as designated terrorist organizations. All 4 people killed were described as male narco-terrorists. The military says no U.S. personnel were injured in the operation. The strike is part of Washington's broader effort to disrupt drug smuggling networks operating in the Eastern Pacific. The U.S. has not released details of the nationality of those killed or the type of vessel targeted. German authorities are investigating an alleged plan to attack a mosque in the town of Gera. Its public prosecutor's office has been investigating for about a year. 2 suspects are under scrutiny for allegedly planning the attack. A 28-year-old was detained and remanded in custody in December 2024. Searches were carried out at the home of the second suspect. The detention order was lifted in late January after prosecutors said there was no urgent suspicion of a crime. In a response to a parliamentary question from the Left Party, the Thuringia State's Interior Ministry said the 28-year-old intended to shoot a large number of Muslims at a mosque. Officials said no concrete preparations for an attack have been identified so far. However, authorities stressed the investigation remains active. According to reports, the alleged plot has been logged in official records as a far-right terrorist offense. German security agencies say they continue to monitor extremist threats closely. The Alliance of Sahel States in Africa has launched a new regional investment bank to fund development projects. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger formally established an investment and development bank. The move aims to finance major infrastructure and economic projects across the Sahel. Burkina Faso's Economy and Finance Minister Abubakar Nakanabo announced the launch on Wednesday. He said the bank starts with initial capital of $895 million. The announcement followed a meeting of finance ministers from the three countries. Leaders say the bank will strengthen regional cooperation and reduce reliance on external financing. Scientists say there may be a new way to prevent gum disease without killing helpful bacteria. Researchers at the University of Minnesota studied how bacteria in the mouth communicate. Instead of wiping bacteria out, they focused on blocking chemical signals bacteria use to coordinate growth. The mouth hosts approximately 700 bacterial species. Many rely on a process called quorum sensing, which helps harmful bacteria take over dental plaque. The study found that bacteria above the gum line send signals that affect bacteria below it. When researchers disrupted those signals using special enzymes, healthier bacteria became dominant. Disease-linked bacteria declined while health-associated bacteria increased. Experts say the approach could lead to new treatments that protect the mouth's natural balance instead of destroying it. The research was published in the journal NPJ Biofilms and Microbiomes. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.